Hi, my name is Anna Vien, and this is the Upcrate 55, a mystery art subscription box from Germany. Let's open it and create something together. I always love opening a new Upcrate. It feels like a treat, a gift for myself. First of all, I like to look at the art print, to then slowly work my way through the supplies. The artist of the month is Julian Schleifer, a freelance concept artist and illustrator specialized in character design. I've got 7 sheets of Art Space's watercolor paper, though I didn't know that when I opened the box, so I wondered if the paper would be usable on both sides. As always, they added a sticker sheet. Another thing I really appreciate about Upcrate. Next is the Amsterdam acrylic marker, an oxide black in the size chunk. A 40 ml tube of Van Gogh's Azo Yellow Light. The Pigma Micron 10, a 0.6 liner in black. Last but not least, the Ecoline brush pen pack of 5, the Frau Hölle set. The art prompt for the Upcrate battle is Your Magic, as a still life or portrait on paper. The e-magazine of Upcrate is unfortunately still quite bland, and the how-to video was only an unfinished clip, not a full art video. The Bottle Post used to be a fantastic magazine, brimming with interesting tutorials and tips that were given by several different artists. Remember those amazing color wheels made with the art supplies in a box by La Petite Russe, art hacks by Kritzelpixel, the how-to by Captain Crate, the inspiration radar, additional interviews, the Sailor of the Month, and even more. I really hope they find a way to regain their charm and add more value to the magazine, as well as making it easier to access that content later on via their website. I'm trying to play around with the art supplies, diluted them, and tried out how transparent the yellow acrylic paint is. I honestly had no clue what to do at this point, but to engage in the bee vibe. Knowing what I know now, I wish I'd taken more time to play and explore and gather ideas and inspiration. Here you can see me creating little thumbnails, since I'm not very practiced with creating quote-unquote proper artwork, where I whip out the nice art supplies to make something somewhat polished. I went off of a beautiful photo I took of my significant other in March, when we visited a beautiful garden where the cherry blossoms and the magnolia trees stood in full bloom. Unfortunately, I didn't record that day because I didn't think I'd find myself making a YouTube video a couple weeks later. However, I don't mean that it was a poor choice of concept. Heck no, because it truly is a magical photo. Yet my second magic ability, which is to draw and paint, to create anything from basically nothing with only a few ingredients, that magic is still in a bit of a slumber. I've barely created anything since around a year, but a few sketches perhaps. I definitely struggled to create a loose sketch. It feels a bit like stage fright for me, to create on a separate piece of paper instead of my sketchbook. Perhaps you're familiar with that phenomenon too. Nevertheless, moving away from my sketchbook really pushed me to think things through, to use the given supplies and to sharpen my tools. Thinking about how to approach certain steps of the process is really invigorating, but it also made me somewhat sweat and regret. But the only way is forward, right? If you couldn't already tell from my initial sketch, I'll let you in on a secret. I'm a bloody beginner at drawing flowers, anything natural really. Despite the fact that I really enjoy growing flowers and spend hours in my garden, at the end of the day, I'm somewhat of a lazy artist. I own 2 of the refill inks of the Ecoline brush pen markers, the rose beige and the pastel red to be specific. You will see me use them multiple times in a little porcelain palette throughout the video, and I'm trying to show you a bit of the mixing process in general. I used a slightly diluted version of rose beige as an underpainting, if you will. I've made good experiences with blow drying the paper after the initial layer of water and paint. Since most papers usually buckle at first, they seem to flatten with the process of blow drying them. What I didn't anticipate though is that the tape wouldn't like that. At least it didn't happen the last time I blow dried my paper. I haven't actually tried if the Art Space watercolor paper would have flattened by itself. Perhaps you can tell me. I mixed a diluted mahogany with a bit of grey for the rims of the cherry blossoms, then diluted it further to color in her gown. The seams and belt are a mix of the light grey and a hint of the diluted mahogany, which resulted in a muted lilac. I used a diluted pastel red for the cherry blossoms and blended it out with a bigger, slightly wet brush. I used a pastel red for her eyelids and lips, but I'll go over the lips several times throughout the painting, also adding a bit of the beige and eventually mahogany, as you'll see later on. I diluted the yellow ochre to give her golden eyes and painted her pupil directly with the yellow ochre brush pen. I didn't dare to jump in with the grey brush pen like I did in my sketchbook, so I added a layer of the diluted grey first. Eventually, I did go in with the grey brush pen and started to layer up the ink. I'd say the paper did okay for a cellulose watercolor paper and a water-based brush marker with a foam tip. I avoided pilling the paper by waiting for each layer to dry, rotating around before I went back over it. Eventually the paper was saturated though, and the ink somewhat lifted instead of adding more pigment, which resulted in a feathering effect. I didn't really mind, since this painting isn't to be looked at with a magnifying glass. It is simply to be painted by me, to be magicked into being. In the original photo, there were plenty of branches and blossoms in the background, blurred by the bokeh effect. I tried to replicate it with pale colors to hint at them, but I lacked the skill to deliver that effect. Therefore, I furiously tried to undo it. Overall, I think it was a fair shot after such a long time of creative inactivity. I somewhat regret not adding a lovely light pattern to her gown. Admittedly, in the end, I rushed to be done with it and couldn't really look at it anymore after 2 days of painting. I should have paid closer attention to Julian Schleifer and maybe added bolder choices instead of working tone in tone. Perhaps I should also work on multiple paintings so I won't feel oversaturated with one artwork. On the other hand, I'm not too sure if I have the capacity for that. I guess there's only one way to find out though. So my verdict on the Upcrate 55 is that it was a decent box. I love it when they do mixed media boxes, yet I felt like the art supplies provided are more suitable for sketchbook shenanigans than finished artworks. I'm not a fan of the texture of the paper, but I'm team hot press, so it didn't stand a chance with me in the first place. It was really lovely that Upcrate came through with the Van Gogh acrylic paint eventually, yet I didn't feel like it added value to this box, since we already had the beautiful yellow ochre. Therefore, I would have preferred a paintbrush instead to round off the box. I didn't use the micron at all. I even forgot it existed after opening the box. It's a great liner though, so it won't go to waste. I think the only supply I didn't really want but apparently needed to mix the green was the black acrylic marker. I feel like a black chunk like that didn't really add value to the box for me. I would have preferred a dark blue instead, which is far more versatile in my opinion. But I saw people putting it to great use, so I suppose this is where I make the full circle and come back to my previous argument that I didn't play enough with the art supplies. How did you like the Upcrate 55 and what did you do with it? By the way, I'm so late to the party that the Upcrate 56 has already arrived and awaits. Wish me luck that some of what I've learned will stick. See you next time. Bye bye.